1. 2. 99. 100. Yep. That's enough for me. Yeah. See that, ladies? 100 push-ups. You saw it. You're my witness. And yet, even though I accomplished this amazing feat for about 3 years, eating a banana every morning, including the squats and the kilometers run, I can't seem to manage to defeat my enemies with a single punch. Maybe I gotta rewatch some TV and see what I'm doing wrong. Because there's nothing wrong with getting your information from an anime.
One Punch Man was a Japanese webcomic published a couple years back. Its story centers on an average Joe who does the usual. Buys groceries, watches cartoons, destroys aliens, robots, and monsters with a single punch.
Oh, and did I mention that he's got a really cool name?
That's
right, his name is Saitama.
The series' popularity exploded like a hero's punches. It eventually made its way to the small screen last year and has made its official American debut on Toonami. Now, how I say quote-unquote official because American audiences couldn't wait long enough to see it. I log into Facebook and I eventually catch a meme or two from the show with Saitama beating up Superman, Marvel characters, Goku, the works.
So it makes you wonder, with One Punch Man being this amazing hit in the States, what happened if they made an adaptation that took place in the US made by Americans?
Now I know what you're thinking. As soon as I bring up an American adaptation of a Japanese cartoon. Joey, that's insane. Think of the whitewashing. Think of all the details that made the original work. What do you want, another Dragon Ball Evolution?
Listen, there ain't never gonna be another Dragon Ball Evolution.
Saitama is a hero for fun, who struggles with things that every man deals with. Bills, groceries, hanging out with friends, the works. Throw into the mix that he has the powers of a god, and you make for some good contrast. The show asks the question, what would happen if a superhero was too powerful? The audience doesn't know much about Saitama. We are left to assume he's a regular guy, but we don't know much about his past, other than one scene which shows him losing his job and saving this weird looking kid. The big irony is how it seems like he could have been powerful even before he engages in the quote unquote training. What normal dude could pull this strange piece of Japanese animation off? Other than Tetsuo, but I digress. We hear about all these over-the-top monsters, demons, and superpowered people in the show, and then see them destroyed in seconds by a guy who doesn't take himself that seriously. It makes the show a decent parody, though it's most animes and superhero shows. The show makes fun of characters with rich backstories, overcoming odds and journeys. Have all that take a backseat to a guy who could care less. In one of the show's funniest moments, we see characters monologue, and Saitama get increasingly impatient.
But let's be honest, there are qualities about animes that don't work for American audiences. It's a cultural thing. It's kind of hard to bypass.
Casting white actors for characters that were designed to be Asian doesn't just reinforce a bias that Asians can't be in starring roles unless they're Jackie Chan, but defeats the value of what made the source material work. However, when watching One Punch Man the anime, I felt there were a lot of qualities that Americans understood just as much as the Japanese. In some ways, watching One Punch Man didn't make me feel like I was watching a traditional anime. While there were plenty of things we expect from Japanese animation, like the monsters, robots, and over-the-top fights, the deconstruction of what makes a superhero were themes that American movies and shows are currently exploring. In some ways, we've done this already. Remember the movie Hancock? A similar invincible being is hated by the public and often destroying property and his foes with a single swing. Saitama is often criticized by other heroes who are jealous by how often he jumps higher in their ranks, pointing out all the destruction he causes after he saves a town. Speaking of ranks, the idea that superheroes are employed civil servants is a theme that goes far back in the comic book Watchmen and Marvel's Civil War. Lower rung heroes are ranked as Class C, consisting of average Joes who want to help the local community. In the movie Kick-Ass, street heroes are average Joes who want to help their local community. At some point, Saitama gets jealous at the other hero's success and wonders why, despite saving the city dozens of times over through insanely powerful foes, it's kinda similar to Darkwing Duck. Having a hero enjoy the thrill of fighting crime, but expecting some fame and fortune to come out of it. I'm not saying Saitama is looking for the fame, but the idea that a superhero is deconstructed is something American audiences have done for years. In some ways, deconstructed superhero tropes are what American audiences look forward to, which is why the stories of Saitama has done so well in the States. This isn't saying that there aren't any animes that are not as popular as One Punch Man for American audiences. And that's not also saying that they can work as American shows. Remember Dragon Ball Evolution? We all know Dragon Ball characters as easy as Western characters like Superman or Batman, or else we wouldn't have as many YouTube fights between these characters as we already do. So having the American version of Dragon Ball seemed reasonable. But with anything with a passionate fan base would be scrutinized. I'm not saying Dragon Ball Evolution was a perfect movie, but what I can say is that the elements that worked were not as big as the movie's biggest problems. For people who don't like whitewashing a cast of mainly Japanese stories, I want to say Dragon Ball Evolution did pretty well integrating Asian actors with white actors. Even casting Justin Chatwin as Goku may not have been a terrible decision as people made it out to be. What I could say before this movie becomes a review of Dragon Ball Evolution is that they didn't know how to take the stories of Dragon Ball and fit it into one movie. Added on the fact that they tried to combine elements of Dragon Ball Z with Dragon Ball, which, believe it or not, does have significant differences. Like any movie that does terrible, as insane as the backlash for Dragon Ball Evolution was, it could have worked. And what that movie did wrong could have been corrected in a One Punch Man movie. Because we only have one season that consisted of 12 episodes, it makes it easier to pick important elements to fit a 2-hour movie, as opposed to a whole series. There were certain fights and plot points that didn't have to be included. Maybe have a montage of some of Saitama's fights and focus on his growth through the superhero registry with his partner Genis. I would also think having Saitama be Japanese would be important as well. While you could have an American counterpart named Sam, who could be a character straight from a Judd Apatow movie, who just so happens to have the abilities of a god, it could be a progressive move to have a leading role given to an Asian actor, since we don't see a lot of Asians in starring roles. That, and how could we deny audiences of such an awesome name, Saitama, to a white dude?
So with all that said and done, do you think One Punch Man could work in the States? Comment and let me know. I'm Joey.T.Cartoon.P and thanks for watching this editorial on the Cartoon Palooza.